We are overtime. Amazing show with Dave Kluge, one of the better going outs. We had a false start going out. Go check out the live stream. Dave and I did 2+ hours of goodness and lots of great analysis and a lot of breaking news that were happening as we were talking. We didn't get a chance to talk about the Broncos. You're in Colorado. It's a very interesting team. We got into Judy and why I think he's a value for the first time and maybe the last time in his career. But we're seeing a lot of it. I had Deepak Chona on talking about how Javonte Williams was beating the odds with his recovery timeline. There's a bunch of interesting opportunities to exploit value in Denver. So talk about it a little bit.
Well, I think the best opportunity to exploit value is with Russell Wilson. And for the last 8 years, prior to last year, Russell Wilson was a top 10 quarterback. And in 4 of those 8 years, he was a top 3 quarterback. So he possesses elite upside. And I am not going to concede that a 34-year-old Russell Wilson just forgot how to play football. And if you look at fantasy drafts right now, it seems like that's what people are thinking. And there just seems to be a huge disconnect here because if you poll 100 NFL teams, or I'm sorry, 100 NFL fans, and you say, are the Denver Broncos going to be better or worse than they were last year? 95% of them are expecting the Broncos to be better. But Russell Wilson was the QB 17 last year, and he's getting drafted as the QB 18 this year. So we're drafting him below his floor. There's almost no way that he regresses. And we saw it in a very, very small sample size after Nathaniel Hackett was finally booted from Denver, where Russell Wilson was putting up 20-point games and looking like Russell Wilson of old. And I don't know. Like, I can't guarantee with absolute certainty that Russell Wilson is going to be a QB1 or a top 3 quarterback again, but he does possess that upside, and he is being priced below his floor right now.
If you ask a football guy, and you're from Football Guys, Dave Kluge from Football Guys, why did Daniel Jones finally find success many years into this experiment called an NFL career? The answer is simple. It's unanimous that this team decided to invest in the offensive line. Right? They over and over and over again. Now, if Evan Neal takes a step forward, he played all the snaps last year, didn't play particularly well, but most tackles don't play well in their rookie year. I fully expect him to make a leap and to be one of the better offensive lines in the sport. That's not an accident, right? That's causation, right? What happened last year to the Denver Broncos offensive line was cataclysmic, and they've made huge investments, right? Isn't that one of the signature moves of this offseason was the rebuilding of the offensive line in Denver?
Yeah, talked about that earlier. $140 million designated to Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers. And then on top of that, they signed free agent Samaje Perine, who is a freaking hammer as a pass blocker. What is he? 235, 240 pounds, one of the best pass blockers out there. So Russ Wilson had a penchant early in his career for scampering around and trying to make big plays that were out of the structure of the offense. And that's not what Sean Payton's offense is. They're going to want him to stand in the pocket, go through his progressions. It, is going to require him to be a little bit better at timing, not the letting Russ cook that we saw during his early years in Seattle, but they've put the structure around him so he can learn to do that. And I will say there are a few red flags coming out of camp right now. They said that Russ is struggling with his footwork and struggling with his timing, but we've got to imagine that Sean Payton is going to help him get there. This is Russ, his entire career up until last year. He was with the same coach, same team, same city, same system. Nothing really changed for Russ until last year. Now he has to relearn a new system for the second time in a year. So there could be some growing pains there, but you talked about the New York Giants and investing in offensive line. But the other thing they did was invest in a head coach and brought in Brian Daboll, who tailored a system to Daniel Jones's strengths. So hopefully we see Sean Payton do the same thing. I'm expecting Russ Wilson to take a step forward. Really, when it comes to the pass catchers, that's where I don't have a strong take. Looking at Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims and Greg Dulcich and Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine, I hate using the term too many mouths to feed, but there are a lot of damn mouths to feed in Denver. Somebody's going to have to be the odd guy out. So the common guy that I'm targeting in drafts is Russ. And then I'm kind of throwing darts at all of the other offensive weapons.
Marvin Mims. He is the best value late round wide receiver. On the stream, we talked about how Zamir White is the absolute latest running back who often gets undrafted, doesn't even get picked because it's the Raiders, and Josh Jacobs has been their metronome workhorse back. But if Josh Jacobs missed time, I mean, it's going to be Zamir White as the workhorse, and he's explosive and it's exciting. That's a great, handcuff you can just get off waivers. And a couple rounds earlier, but still very late, way later than I expect, there's Marvin Mims. And it's funny, every year you'll see a training camp injury get reported, and it's like no one noticed. It's like it never happened. And that's what's happening with this Tim Patrick injury. The whole thing with Marvin Mims was he's going to have to wait at least a year, wait his turn, right? So they've got to finally move on from Cortland Sutton. He's a definitive bust. He's not going to be what he was promised to be. He's not DK Metcalf. He's nothing, right? Tim Patrick was the possession receiver, and it was going to be this rotation where Mims comes in as a situational deep threat. Well, that's not it. Now Patrick's out. His career is likely over. And it's all about Marvin Mims in 3 receiver sets. And they're going to be running a lot of 3 receiver sets in Denver. Now, not as many as we thought now that we know that Sean Payton loves Adam Trautman. So that was a shock. That was a shock to the system to see them post up Adam Trautman top of the depth chart with their first depth chart that they released. That was, I think, insulting for Greg Dulcich. Dulcich is going to outproduce Adam Trautman. But Adam Trautman is not just going to go away. Adam Trautman is interesting. Adam Trautman does have pass catching ability, has a 1,000+ yard season in college, and it's just more weapons for Russell Wilson, more evidence that Russell Wilson is absolutely going to bounce back this year. And it's fun to go Jerry Jeudy and then stack him with Wilson, knowing you can just draft Wilson at his ADP, and no one is in a hurry to get Russell Wilson, but then you could also double stack him with the final round pick in traditional leagues and very late in best ball with Marvin Mims. There are analysts that I highly respect that look at what Marvin Mims did coming out early, putting up 2 consecutive seasons with a 20+ yards per reception in the Big 12, and go, hey, in a vacuum, pound for pound, play for play, talent for talent, Marvin Mims is simply a better player than Quentin Johnston. And they're both projected to be the number 3 receiver in an AFC West offense. And yet Quentin Johnston is going round 8 and 9. And in some cases, Marvin Mims is going undrafted. And that, to me, is ADP arbitrage.
Well, Marvin Mims isn't going undrafted in any drafts that I'm in. I can tell you that much. I'm drafting Marvin Mims when I can. And sorry, I got you right as you were taking a sip of water there. Yeah, it is crazy to me. And I think investing in first round wide receivers is a pretty sound strategy. And I'll shout out Adam Harstad over at Football Guys, who really tries to make things as simple as possible. And he says that the best investment you can make is a first round wide receiver. Those guys have insulated value for years and years. They do bust occasionally, but they have a very low bust rate comparative to other positions. So I'm throwing darts at all the first round rookies. But the one wide receiver that I have more than Jackson Smith, or the one wide receiver I have rostered more than Jackson Smith-Njigba and more than Quentin Johnston, is Marvin Mims. He's my 3rd most rostered rookie wide receiver right now for the exact reasons that you just laid out. I mean, there's a realistic possibility that he is that week 1 starter in 3 wide receiver sets. Now, Greg Dulcich was another guy that I had been beating the drum for, loved what I saw as a rookie. And while you don't want to overreact to the preseason, Adam Trautman out-targeting him in 3-0 is a little bit worrisome. And I think that, we know that Sean Payton likes versatile tight ends, And Greg Dulcich is kind of a one-trick pony. So unless he wants to change from a tight end to a wide receiver, I'm kind of putting the breakout on the back burner. It might not happen this year. And, I've just kind of turned my sights from Greg Dulcich to even more Marvin Mims. You like that?